Tonight, can a man moisturize without losing custody of his kids? Is that a glow, or did Chad just discover exfoliation? And will using an eye cream ruin Brad's reputation as a tough guy? This is What Does Danné Say? Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another, I would say, informative more than exciting episode of What Does Danné Say? Today we're going to talk about opening the mail. Now, that sounds kind of funny, but I'm talking about male clients, men that get treatments. You know, back in my early days in Chicago, it was unthinkable for a man to go and have a facial. That's why we never use the word facial at DMK, is because it's so common. People's eyes glaze over when they hear it, and it connotates kind of a pamper thing for women. That's why we say skin revision. But anyway, in those days, they had Elizabeth Arden's Red Door, they had Iona of Hungary, all these big European bastions of female facials and makeup, everything else, because those are back in the days when women, well, there was no two-income families, and women went to lunch and they did all those things. Men would not be caught dead until I came along. And I opened a clinic called Apropos on Oak Street, which was the high-end fashion street off of Michigan Boulevard in Chicago. And we focused on male clients. And it was amazing that they started coming in. And once they did come in and they saw what was happening and the results, they were ours for a long time. But there are some rules to putting this together and things you have to know first. First of all, there's a vast market in the African-American community. And I actually talked a lot about this on my tours through South Africa back in the early 80s and that, working in the townships with black men and dermatologists when nobody else would. This was before the apartheid was even over. Another group of men that are out there that are often overlooked are muscle builders. Now, a lot of muscle builders, even though they don't like to admit it, are on anabolic steroids. And I've had them come into my clinics over the years, and I always fill out a little medical chart, and I go, all right, now, what steroids are you on? Oh, I'm not on steroids. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. All those big system bumps on your back are natural, even at your age of 50, and all those muscles, you know. So we have to be very candid. If they don't want to admit to it, fine, just shine it on. But we call it BACNY, and there is definite treatments for that. You can't force them off steroids, but you can control the breakouts completely. And then middle-aged men. You know, back in the day, and Gen X does not understand this at all, but back in my day, keep in mind that I'm almost 100 years old in 20 years. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's true. I'm 82. Back in my day, if a guy could be fat, not that good looking, tacky dresser, but as long as he had a big roll of cash and a fancy car, he thought he could pick up women at any time, do anything he wants, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The women revolted. Back in the bra-burning era of the 70s, women decided, you know what? You expect me to be gorgeous 24/7. Guess what, dude? You have to be good, gorgeous, too. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And that started a whole revolution of men seeking ways to look better, look younger, and be fit. The gyms were filling up. There was all kinds of Jane Fonda exercise studios all over the place. It became a phenomenon. And men did realize that they had to look as good as what they were demanding of the women. And then we have gay men. It used to be older gay men. Now it's all gay men. And the reason I'm emphasizing gay men is simply because they have, most of the time, disposable income. Some gay men are married and they have adopted children, you know, but a lot aren't. And it's sad to say, but there is an emphasis in the gay community on youth, on looking good. And I know this personally to be true. It shouldn't be, but it is. unless you have a lot of money, and then you can have toy boys or whatever. But I built a huge clientele amongst gay men in Chicago. It was the place to come because everything was kept private. We taught them how to look good, how to maintain at home without resorting to plastic surgery or anything obvious. Although we had a very good, and still do, relationship with top plastic surgeons all over the world and everywhere. Fillers and Botox. It's very funny that a lot of people, oddly enough, think fillers and Botox are the same thing. Serious. They hear about it. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing absolutely wrong with fillers and Botox. There's one thing you have to realize, though. The injector has to know what they're doing. They have to know exactly how many units to put into each muscle group at the appropriate space. Otherwise, you could end up with, evil eyebrows. You could end up all kinds of strange. It goes away eventually, but they have to deal with it during that time that they're walking around with the devil eyebrows. You can achieve all kinds of lifts, believe it or not. Surgeons all over the world actually like us a lot, especially in Russia, Ukraine, even South Africa, even here, simply because we make their work better. Now, last but not least, how do we attract the males to our clinics? That was my biggest Achilles heel back in the early 80s in Chicago. As I said earlier in the podcast, it just wasn't popular. Men just didn't go to have things done. So we had to get something familiar so they would feel comfortable. Now, most of the salons, our so-called skincare centers at that time, had a lot of feminine puff draperies and, a lot of frou-frou and things like that. And this made the men feel very uncomfortable when they'd go and sit and wait for their appointment, especially with a lot of other gals sitting around. They would kind of feel like, well, I'm not in the right territory. This is all for chicks. This is not for me. So from the beginning, I had my reception rooms always looking like a doctor's office, exactly like a doctor's office, because they're familiar with doctor's office. And when we diagnosed them, we would diagnose them, not just, okay, you're going to have a European facial now. No, we would sit there with our clip chart, little medical form, ask them every question, what prescription drugs are they on, lifestyle, very seriously. They've heard this before. And then when it came time for the home prescriptives, which are a vital part of everything, because without home prescriptives with DMK, you're not going to have any real tangible results over a period of time. It's extremely important. And they're not just products that they pick out. There's no such thing as a moisturizer or things like that. We'll get into that at another podcast about why moisturizer is a phony word when it comes to products. But we would be so specific that they would say, okay, I'll do that, because they've heard that before. They've gone to the doctor with a sore throat. The doctor takes a wood tongue depressor, say, okay, you've got strep throat. I'm going to put you on amoxicillin club or whatever. Okay, and they go right to the pharmacy and get that prescription because the doctor said so. Our people, our therapists are trained the same exact way. And if they're not willing to do the home prescriptives, they just want a treatment because they've heard it's popular, we don't do them, refuse them. And many times people have walked out the door a little bit mad, but guess what? 3 weeks later, they call and say, you know what? You could have taken my money and did that treatment, but you didn't. So I'm going to do the whole thing. And that's how you keep the male client. You have the atmosphere they're familiar with. And you know something, especially you lady therapists out there, men are actually better at their home prescriptives than women are. Because you gals like to go into shopping malls and that. You go through the cosmetic area, you pick this up, smell it, try it, take samples home, throw them in the drawer, whatever. Men don't do that. And when they are told professionally, step 1, step 2, step 3, they will do it at home perfectly. And if you need to change their regimen, and they're going, let's say they're going on vacation into another climate that's not like where they live, they do it without question. So we hope this helps you with your practice. I've done this for many, many years. And guess what? It's growing. It's a growing atmosphere because you also have in this mix teenage acne. You have all these kids that are coming out with today's stresses in the world all over the place. I've seen a lot more reactions in skin than I've seen for a very long time, hormonal changes and so on. We address all of that. That's all part of your clientele. So don't think small. Reach out and tell people in your ads, in your online social media, exactly what you can do and how you can do it. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. I wish I could talk for 5 hours, but then I'd put you to sleep. And remember one important thing. I've said this for years and years and years. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to study. Don't be afraid to research because knowledge is... Thank you.